Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Stormwater Management Board on Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. And the first order of business is approval of the minutes.
Move approval of the minutes for August 12th, 2021.
Second.
Was it from the 12th or the 11th?
Oh, I think it is the 11th.
Nice catch, Penny. Still second.
Ms. Sutonia, would you please call the roll?
Penny Giffens,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
Lee Jones,
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph.
Yes.
And the next order of business is public input for items not on the agenda. And this will be limited to 3 minutes. And I am not seeing any public. So we will move on to staff reports. Ms. Sutonia, please.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I was hoping to have more of an update for you this month. The state is not announcing the SWIFT grant awards just yet. I think Lisa said September 10th, they're planning on announcing it. So by next meeting, we will be able to discuss whether or not we were awarded that money. And in the meantime, my brain has been spinning on, contingency plans and what we're going to do if it's not awarded and things like that. So we can discuss all that next month. The other thing that I wanted to bring up in this meeting, and this can be something that we follow up on at another time. I wanted to talk about some progress that's being made on the ag fields around the county airport property. So this conversation first happened actually with Connie performing a routine facility inspection at Cars Farm Park. They saw some soil erosion coming from the neighboring farm fields onto the Cars Farm Park property. And we said, well, let's talk to Martha at the SWCD and see if they have any resources where we can get something started here. And sure enough, Martha said that they already have one of the fields under an EQIP contract, and they're hoping to get started on some conservation practices this year and next year. Yesterday, I met with Martha and her NRCS staff, the producer, and the operations gentleman with the airport to discuss installing some conservation practices on one of the worst fields on the southwest corner there. So that kind of moved a bit quicker than I anticipated, and I was happy to hear that, but I wanted to give you an update on that, and also just a discussion on how we can address some other erosion issues in that area while still meeting everyone's needs as far as land use and everything goes. We can put this, on for like a separate meeting or on next month's agenda if you'd like, but I wanted to start that conversation. And if Martha, if you have anything to add to that, please do so.
Might add that we actually had the land, the operator, the tenant farmer who rents the land currently, approach NRCS and us almost 2 years ago. So he's actually had that lease for 5 years now. So he's going into his last year of what's allowed before rebid. So he's invested a lot of his own money to improve the soil health quality and address these issues of erosion. The previous tenant on that property allowed the soil degradation to just become almost improducible. And we have soil documents to actually prove that. So yeah, if you want more information on that, let me know. But he has gone into a contract to fix this one particular issue. if we can get it fixed and get all the people to come together and help get it done right, he'd like to move forward on the rest of them on the property. So
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions for either Ms. Miller or Ms. Thetonia? Tron?
Yes, and this goes with moving forward with hiring administrative personnel at Stormwater and the discussion that took place at PAC. I think some of the concerns are notable for sure, but I guess let me go ahead and bring some content to this. They were talking about how highway and stormwater are going to take over some of the permitting processes and such from planning. And so then Councilmember Hawk made a question, what should we scale back from planning? And I think it would be in our best interest to advocate that the stormwater department, Lisa and Kelsey, work closely with planning to make sure that it's known that this isn't going to add additional free time for planning. It's going to help balance it a bit more, and we don't need to scale back things. I'm not sure if that's going to be a larger discussion moving forward, but my goal of bringing this up is that we do better coordination with planning department to make sure that it's known that this is going to add relief and separate some of the way that we do business more appropriately with permitting and such. So I just wanted to strongly advise that. And then if there's anything I can do from the surveyor's office, please let me know, letter of support or such, and I'll be sure to provide one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tron.
Any other comments, questions?
Can I make a comment on what Tron
Yes,
discussing?
please.
So just to kind of elaborate on that, yeah, I think there are things the planning department wants to be doing right now as far as, providing their services to the public that they're wanting to do and are not able to right now because of staffing. That is something that I'm not comfortable explaining enough of. I don't know it well enough, or their department. We have met with the department directors and Dave Schilling, myself and Jackie and Rachel and Connie to discuss what this is going to look like. Some of it's not going to change too much. So for example, I get tagged on a lot of current grading permits to review for different environmental concerns. It might just be kind of flip-flopped where I have a stormwater permit and I might have to tag, their zoning inspector on a permit. So there's going to still be a lot of communication between us using OpenGov. And that's the part right now where we're still wanting to finalize what that's going to look like before implementing the ordinance.
All right. Yeah, I know that planning is pretty overwhelmed right now, so I should imagine anything that can get taken off their plate is going to be very helpful to them.
Yeah.
Let's see. And we have no old business. Are there any other questions or comments about Kelsey's report? And seeing none, we have no old business, so we will move on to the stormwater expenditure report.
Okay, so this is the report for August. Labor and fringe remaining pretty much the same. We spent $45,515.83 for that month, up to about 52% of our total. For our accounts in the 20s, supplies and fleet maintenance and all the other materials that are needed for our cruise work total $1,902.56. The main projects that they were working on, they had a few small requests. They've been working on getting that number down. since, all the heavy rains we had in previous months. I'll get into Cherry Lane in a minute, but that's really it's for that section. The requests are going up a little bit, I will say, just because our Vector truck has been down. But in the 30s, you'll see next month for training and travel, myself, Connie, and Erica will be attending INAFSM, which is the Indiana Association for Floodplain and Stormwater Managers. This is one of 2 or 3 kind of large conferences for our programs each year. And it'll be in person in Evansville, actually next week. It's 3 days, lots of resources, great discussions I hope to have with other MS4s and other floodplain folks, discussing program updates. I hope to hear more from the state about the status of the general permits that they should be releasing this year. I'm tired of saying it, but I will, for next month, be able to bring back any insight gained from that conference. Next one is Bluebeam software. This is comparable to Adobe Pro, but it is specific for plan review. This is something that other departments were looking into, and tech services pinged us and said, hey, would you like some licenses? So I said, absolutely, yes, please. I've used it before, and it's a bit more powerful than Adobe Pro for plan review, looking at large construction plans and leaving comments and things like that. Disposal fees for street sweepings. The bin is again full. They've been pretty busy, so you'll probably see another charge next month as well as cleaning out our sand filter. Bugfest, we donate $500 towards that event, and Connie will be manning a table there as well, focusing on aquatic macroinvertebrates probably. Fuel usage, $2,789. It's been consistent from month to month, higher than previous years, but this is what fuel costs at the moment. So the next one is something that you haven't seen in a while. So this is from the agreement with USGS, the stream gauge at Kurtz, monitoring the flow from Salt Creek into Lake Monroe. That was an agreement made several years ago now. So this should be one of the last payments that you see, definitely one of the last large payments for that. Rental of equipment, they had to rent some things for various projects, including Cherry Lane and some others. So Cherry Lane, you see quite a large number there. That project, I drove through it with Jason this morning to take a final inspection of it. All of the box culverts have officially been placed. The ditching is complete, riprap line channels, all of it. It's all done now. So we're wrapping up paying all the invoices. You'll probably see a few more next month as well. Strip Road and Morris Creek project. They're just working on some of the environmental permitting and things for that right now. Still working with the Corps on finalizing the environmental assessment, but that is all still underway, and they're hoping to have that wrapped up at the end of the summer. Okay, so not much has changed on these large projects down here. So, any questions?
I have a few. I'll be attending INAFSM as well.
I knew you would.
Yeah, it's a great event. Actually, early June, I was voted as the second vice president of the Indiana Geographic Information Council. And we host a GIS conference once a year. And we've been creating more collaborative measures with INAFSM. And I'll be presenting with a couple colleagues of mine at IGIC at this year's conference. So that's kind of exciting. I was curious if you were attending this year. I only saw the annual dues for $40. So that was kind of a question. I'm curious, how many members do we have in stormwater for INASM?
We now have the 3. So I was a previous member, but I renewed it with the conference registration. You saw that because Connie just renewed her registration, but Eric and I did it with registration. So next month, you'll see the bills for that, for all the conference registration fees.
Perfect. That's awesome. And I'm so excited that this is on your radar and you're continuing to go. That's actually, I think, where I first met you when you were with the city, Kelsey.
Yep.
I do want to plug Drainage 101. They talked a lot about the permitting process and how that's going to be streamlined. And I also want to plug waterways, so .in.gov. It's a platform that they're promoting that allows you to do dual applications, both with IDEM and the DNR. And this might help you work with petitioners and such that have to go through these processes. I know that you're keeping a closer eye with compliance, and so this is a great resource for you to direct them to, and they're streamlining it, and they're integrating GIS within that platform as well. So that's pretty awesome. That's the only comments I have. So
Thank you. I will add really quickly that Connie is also presenting. She heads up INASM's illicit discharge committee. So she'll be presenting on that, and she just got out of a meeting with them, and we are considering taking on, instead of the illicit discharge group, the construction and post-construction inspectors group. So continuing our involvement, getting involved in things like that allows us to bring larger workshops here to the county, and just being able to use other MS4s as a resource to help us. So.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions?
So I did
Ms.
want,
Rich, oh, go ahead. I was going to say she put her digital hand up.
I just saw.
that's okay. Congratulations, Tron, on the vice presidency. That's awesome for Monroe County. I just want to add too on some expenditure that might be coming up. I've talked to some sources that we bid out our pipes each December for the next year in 2022. So I talked to Jason a little bit briefly this morning, and I want to get with our bridge crew also. But anyway, the pricing is going to go up significantly for pipes. So to try and maybe stock some pipes out at the highway garage and get some ordered of different sizes. And sometimes we use a lot of the same sizes, especially when we're fixing a pipe underneath the driveway to improve the drainage for the roadway when it's impacting the roadway. So anyway, you might see a little bit more larger of an expense in pipes that we already have an appropriated line for, just so we can stock up and be ahead of the game before that price increase when we do bids in for 2022.
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear that you're looking at that. Anything more? Seeing none, our next order of business is the CWI grant letter of commitment for the Solid Waste Conservation District. And yeah.
I'll introduce it, and then I'll introduce Martha and Ryan. So Martha approached me about a Clean Water Indiana grant that the Soil and Water Conservation District would like to apply for. She can probably explain more about the grant itself. I gave you an overview in this memo so that you can see some background on it, where they're coming from. So this is a standard grant that SWCDs are eligible to apply for. And most of the funding should go to conservation practices. So on the ground implementation, basically overseen by the State Soil Conservation Board and all of their priorities. Part of this, Martha mentioned hiring a conservation resource technician to provide some assistance to private property owners. I think it would be a great idea. I've had several meetings just recently with property owners where I think they would have some wonderful small grant projects to manage drainage on private property. So I support this. I think this is exactly what I want to see our stormwater funds being used for. For on the ground implementation, being able to leverage our funds to get even more money into the county. So I'll let Martha and Ryan speak more to what they're planning to do with the grant itself that they're applying for. I've drafted a letter of commitment to state our support if you choose to support this. I did check with Dave Schilling on the wording, just because we are not officially appropriating all of that money for the next 3 years. We're committing to funding it, just subject to that annual council appropriation. So.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
I'm going to defer to our chair.
Hi, folks. Thank you so much for hearing this. We're actually really excited about this opportunity, really because we look at it almost like it's a force multiplier. So the $5,000 a year that's going to be set aside to help pay for the conservation resource technician, one way of looking at that would be like, well, we could put that money into, direct application for programs like with the cost share. But with this resource technician, I mean, that we're not just leveraging CWI funds, we're leveraging this position to maximize the potential of the spending of the monies that are currently allocated. So with this extra help, we'll be able to actually get to the folks that are asking for our help. I mean, we have an extraordinary amount of people coming to us, and it just increases every year. It's definitely increased every year that I've been on the board, which is exciting. It's exciting to see people take it seriously and understand, the intersection between the environmental services provided by our water systems and our soil, and how those can positively impact our infrastructure and really help out the landowners in the county. So we're happy to take questions. We think that this is going to provide long-term, really long-term benefit for the entire community. So yeah, we're behind it 100%, and we're happy for the opportunity, and we're grateful for your support and your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
May I?
Yes.
Is this a situation where the property that we just heard about that was near Cars Farm Park, that these people could have come for help with specifically from this kind of a grant?
I believe so, actually, yes. They could have reached out to us for sure.
So it prevents problems even then.
Exactly.
I might jump. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're about the prevention.
I might jump in there just really quick and say, over the 18 years that I've been here, the Soil and Water District has evolved from a place of basically administrative duties to where we are constantly getting calls about resources for all sorts of things. We're working with McIris to see if we can help them advance some of their goals in controlling invasives with this position. We also are looking at ways we can take some of the burden off stormwater requests for private landowners. We also have the money that we get from the stormwater fund that services the many grants we have. And I just simply can't spread myself much thinner. And so this is a position that's probably been honestly, probably about 10 years overdue. But in all reality, the last 5, it's really ramped up a lot. And there are other soil and water districts who have worked with their counties to get these grants that are available through this unique source of funding, and then have proven that it's a very beneficial thing to the county. So I think that's ultimately the goal, I think, would be, is to show, we're going to do the best we can with the smallest amount we've got, but maybe this is something the county should really consider investing in long term. So.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments? Well, I have one question, and maybe I'm not understanding this grant quite right, but $5,000 doesn't sound like it would hire someone for very much.
No, so the grant itself is actually for, oh, I don't have it in front of me. The salary would be $40,000 a year.
Okay.
So the position would be paid $40,000 annually for their service. The $5,000 is what we typically have used out of the stormwater funds to hire a summer staff with. Well, if we have this person, we're not going to need a summer staff because they're going to help take over some of the educational duties that that person would have. So what we were asking is the 35,000 leverages with this grant. So the grant money we're actually going to get would be $40,000 a year. Plus we've asked for an additional 10,000. So 50,000 total, 40,000 for the salary and 10,000 to go toward invasive cost share specifically. So we can pull the invasives out of the stormwater money that we usually look at and try to use that money specifically for stormwater driven issues more so than invasives, but they're both needs. With all of that said, the way the grant writes is we get half the money up front, and then soil and water has to come up with that other half until we've paid it out. So, you know, it's one of those things where we're just kind of shuffling things around to make sure that we can get everything covered. The state is super, super, super impressed with this partnership. And if I've heard it once, I've heard it a dozen times of how impressed they are that Stormwater is willing to give us this money to do cost share programming. So that would speak volumes to us having more support in this grant, this 35,000. Back to the 5,000 question, that money would offset what the soil and water is going to take out of their 10,000 appropriations from the state. If we don't use that, then we are going to have to use half of our budgeted money to pay for the taxes that we have to pay, because we'll be doing the payroll out of here at this point in time. So.
Okay. Thank you. That makes it quite a bit more clear.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? Questions, comments? Tron?
Yes, everything sounds really great. I guess my question is, we're still moving forward with the mini grants, correct? But we're going to use 5,000 of the 35 allocated for the partnership with SWCD as the match fund for potentially hiring the resource technician position, which then the state's going to complement that with the additional 40,000, which will give us a full-time personnel, right? Did I say that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, I
So-
just want to make sure I was following along.
Yeah, so all of these years along that we've had this 35,000, we've taken 5,000 and hired a summertime person to help with the educational component. And if we get this grant, we'll no longer need to hire that summertime person, because this person will step in and help me and we'll do education together. So we'd like to just shift that from hiring a summer person to using it to offset the cost of the tax part that we pay them. Mainly because soil and water only gets $10,000 a year appropriations from the state for all the rest of what we do. So it would take half of what we have. And there's at least two things that we have to pay out of that other 5,000. So it'd leave us about $3,000 to operate on a year.
That might be difficult. All right. Does anyone else have anything? And seeing nothing, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion. I am in support of this, so I would motion that we approve the CWI grant letter of commitment for Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District as stipulated in the packet. I don't know what you would want me to call those. The letter from Kelsey Betonia, our MS4 coordinator, as outlined.
Second. And do we also need to include anything about the fact that the $5,000 stormwater partnership grant will be used as a match or not?
That's stipulated in that letter.
Yeah, I know it is. That's why I'm asking if we.
The $5,000 isn't in the letter that's in front of you, but that's something that's normally included in the MOU that we have, so.
Well, that's a great point then, and question from Penny. Does that MOU need to be adjusted then?
It will be each year anyway, so this isn't deviating much from what we already have in place.
All right. Is there any public comment on this item? And since I don't think we have any public, Ms. Setonia, would you please call the roll?
Lee Jones,
Yes?
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Penny Githens.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. And Ms. Miller and Mr. Conway, thank you very much for working on this and making it possible. It sounds like a really good idea to me. So, and next, oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
quickly want to say thank you all very much for what you're doing, and we'll try to do our best to make y'all proud.
Thank you. And our next item is a vac truck purchase proposal. I've been hearing a lot about vac trucks. Ms. Ridge.
I am sure you have. So as you are aware, we do have a vac truck in our fleet. However, it has pretty well exhausted its life. It's broke down at this point. I believe we've heard anywhere around 10 to 12,000 to get it replaced. It was a refurbished piece of equipment when we bought it years ago. It is a piece of equipment that we use extensively for cleaning out pipes. A new vac truck is $435,509. The commissioners have kindly put a portion of this into the 2021 GO bond. Right now, the request towards the purchase of this vac truck is $161,800. There could be a possible $27,400 added to that due to another piece of equipment being eliminated from the parks request. And then that extra was to be moved to the vac truck. The GO bond is moving forward. I believe it's on the next agenda for the council. So I would be requesting $275,000 as asking for permission to go to the council to ask for $275,000 additional for the remainder for purchasing that truck. There will be one available this fall. If we do not grab a hold of this one when we have the funds, we have gave the intent to, after talking with legal, we have gave the intent to purchase this truck, but have not signed anything due to budget constraints, and we never know if something can happen between now and then. So if we do not purchase the one that's available this fall, they are going to experience a 12% increase, and then also it could be another year before they would have another one built to be able to purchase. If you have any questions on this topic, I'd be happy to answer it, and then I'll also give you an update on the admin that Tron mentioned. So.
Any
So
questions?
Kelsey put a really good point in there. It's $10,000 just to take the vac truck apart to find out what's wrong with it. And their willingness to do a trade-in with that. I believe their trade-in value for that is $20,000 to give it to get rid of it. So.
All right, Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah. Is this coming out of this is going to be an adjustment to our 2020 budget 2021 budget, I'm sorry, or 2022 budget?
2021, the GEO bond, I believe, according to Jeff Cockrell's timeline, the way it's working in the timeline he has put out, funding and everything goes okay, then funding would be available in December to be able for that portion. So we were going to pay for it in December.
Right, but no, so that is my question though, I'm just gonna make a motion that we're asking, right, okay, so it's 21. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we approve the adjustment to the 2021 budget for stormwater to allow and encourage strongly the stormwater department to seek an additional $275,000 from county council in October to buy a vac truck.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Givens, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I did. I went through the charges line by line. I was looking at them. And I wondered about 3 different toolboxes on this thing, front, back, and driver's side.
I can tell you, if you've seen the piece of equipment, they brought it in for a demo. It's impressive.
It looks like a monster. Yeah.
It is a monster, and it's a unique piece of equipment. And I don't want to downgrade. You have to have thorough knowledge on running this piece of equipment, and the crew does a great job. And this is actually really a step ahead of what they've got. We also actually spent the extra for, I want to believe it was steel tanks because of rusting. So what we've invested in and what we've looked at and talked with the dealer is it's going to be something that will last. Has a lot new electronics, a lot more that you can be used with a handheld device on running this piece of equipment. And I believe we did some upgrades around the piping system and everything. We kind of did some modifications just to accommodate the crew and what they do on a daily basis. So yeah, it's a very impressive piece of equipment and very monstrous. Yes.
So they also, looks like that over $100,000 for a special chassis. But then there's an extra $550 for a chassis modification charge. I was surprised that they were separated out like that, I guess.
And I can get a more thorough definition on that for you, but I would say since we're doing the chassis upgrade, they're charging us the charge to do that. But after talking with everybody that's familiar, like Jason Moore that runs our crew, the better chassis was a better investment overall.
It'll last longer, I'm sure. Yeah. And be able to haul higher loads and stuff too, probably, but yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I guess mine kind of goes with the maintenance of the vac truck. Are we going to have like adequate housing for this to kind of prevent it from getting weathered? Is this part of, I guess, the garage that was built to help store some of our equipment, and will it accommodate the new vac truck as well?
That is where all of our more expensive equipment is housed, along with the 2 street sweepers that are in stormwater, so that those don't freeze during the winter. And our vac truck is also stored inside in the winter now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything further?
Just one before I guess you call the roll. I just really want to extend appreciation and thanks to the Board of Commissioners, the 3 of you, for supporting this and kind of splitting the cost. That just really shows how to lead by example, and really a great way to conduct business, and relieving some strain on the stormwater fund. It's just great. I just wanted to say thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm very pleased to see that we're going to be purchasing this and working out the funding so nicely. I have some familiarity with vac trucks, and I know that they're frequently used to clean up environmental spills. Is that one of the major purposes that it'll be used for?
To my knowledge, we have not had to do that. But I'm not saying that that's not out of the question. If that's something that can be used for a situation, to me, that'd be more of an emergency type situation, that if this machine could do it and we could assist in a spill like that, absolutely. It's not a piece of equipment that somebody's going to have sitting around every day to be able to use, but we will. And again, we will. And that's something we can work with our emergency management director. I know being on that not committee, it's a board meeting. We meet, I think, quarterly. But basically, you can list your resources, you can list your contact information, and this is something, if it's not already on there, that we could list as a resource for emergency situations.
Yeah, I think that would be a very good idea there. I know that there may even be times when more than one vac truck is really needed to clean up a spill. And I know the city has at least one or two of them also. And then this may not be a fair question because it hasn't been used like this, but I was just curious if there were a toxic spill and the vac truck was used to clean that up. Do you happen to know where it would be emptied?
Elsie, yep.
Yeah, it depends on what it is. For most things, the Dillman Road Wastewater Treatment Plant can handle things. If you bring it there on the truck, then they can get ready for it and know which basin to put it in and all that, so that they know what they're treating. Certain substances would require more paperwork and a specialized landfill, whether Terre Haute, or I know there's some other landfills in Michigan and other surrounding states. So just depends on what it is, but I have some good contacts in the area who have some experience with that. Or you just contract it out and get an environmental company to just do it for you, so you're not liable for it.
Right.
So
yeah, that was something I've wondered about for a while, but and that's interesting that Dillman can handle much of that kind of thing. All right, any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I don't think we have a motion yet.
I think Tron did.
Oh, did you? That's right, you did. I'm sorry. This is my fourth meeting today and my brain may not be functioning quite so well. Is there any public comment on this? And still having no public, I will assume not. Then Ms. Latonia, would you please call the roll?
Penny Githens,
Yes.
Lee Jones,
Yes.
John Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Excellent. Motion carries.
So I did want to give you just last update on the admin position. We did meet with the PAC on Tuesday. They listened, they agreed with our need for that position, especially with the new stormwater ordinance. So they will be sending it up to WIS to develop a job description and a classification for that position. It is not for 2021. It will be for 2022. So that's kind of where we're at with that, but I just want to give you an update on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
When you say it will be for 2022, that means that you could hire starting January of next year?
I would love to sit and say yes. My problem would be at this point would be a space needs. We just brought on our 2 interns. We have our new stormwater inspector. So we've kind of outgrown our room at this point. I don't know that we have a space to add 1 more person, but if we can, I would love to have a person right at the beginning of passing the stormwater ordinance, which I think the goal is this fall. So we don't fall behind and we stay ahead of the program. Even if we have to just make them a temporary corner, I'm sure we can try and do something to bring somebody on as quick as possible. That would be my goal.
Thank you. And if there's nothing else, Ms. Latonia, would you please call the roll? Or
I think
You already did. I'm sorry. My mind really must be kind of fried right now. Sorry about that. All right. Well, I think we have nothing else on our agenda. The date of the next meeting is October 13th, 2021. And I think I better go rest up so my mind works again.
A reminder, our budget hearing is on Tuesday, September 14th, just so everybody is aware and if there's any public watching.
Thank you. And we are adjourned.